Hello and welcome back to AutoKnerd, the podcast where we dive into the art and the science of selling with kindness, trust, and authenticity. I'm your host, Andrew Sardone, and today we're going to be talking about something that's the backbone of every successful sale. And, well, that's trust, right? More specifically, how kindness plays a critical role in building trust with customers and why it's not just a feel-good strategy, but it's a smart business move as a whole to completely move from these old school tactics of, hey, here's how we hard sell the customer, into the customer simply just buying the car and wanting to spend more money to give us bigger commissions, more points on the board a lot faster. So let's face it, when it comes down to it, nobody likes to be sold. That's the point here, right? And also, everybody loves to buy things. You love to buy things on the daily. Think about the products that you buy all the time that you don't necessarily need. Thing is that shopping is kind of like baseball. It's our American pastime, and we love to do it when we have the coin to pull it off. And so we're going to break down the psychology behind all of this. So sit tight, here we go. So did you know that 60% of customers say that they don't trust salespeople? 60%. It's a massive number. That stat alone should make us stop, take pause, and think, right? Because for too long, the sales industry has been built on this idea that we need to pressure the customer to buy. The funny thing is that when we go ahead and we start applying just blatant logic to it, we find pretty quickly that the customer is going to buy anyways. They're going to buy from the person that actually treats them right, or the person that caught them last that has worn them down to nothing, and that person is going to get a terrible survey. You see, in my life, I don't deal with people that I don't know, like, and trust. And you don't either, right? Where you shop and where you go and the things that you do, you go to these places because those are the people that you enjoy. So think about this. When you walked into the last store that you walked into, did you feel like you were just a walking paycheck, or did you feel like, you were actually valued? Because those places that value you, you will be back over and over and over again, right? Those places that don't value you, you're going to go ahead and, simply just never patron again in your life. And so as far as this, what determines what is going to engage that customer to get them to spend more money and spend more time there? Well, on the psychological side of it, it's the fact that if the customer doesn't like you, they're not bothering to stick around. And I know I say this an awful lot. This is, in fact, true. And it's something that all of us have this desire to just ignore. And why is that? Well, the reason is that our typical way of selling is easy. Now, you might be looking at me going, well, Andy, you're a trainer. You don't sell cars anymore. Well, the thing is that, yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't sell cars anymore. I've been a trainer for 20 plus years here and a student of all of this stuff. And so now I'm just trying to bring it on over to you. Emotions are an area that in training we stay away from. Now, I've written closing classes. I've taught closing classes. And every single time, I close that class out and I look at the group and I'm like, did you learn something that's going to help you sell? Everybody leaves energized. Oh, yeah. And then they go back and they put these word tracks into practice, only come to find out that closing classes lead to poor sales, which is why that I don't teach this stuff, right? So with this, closing starts in the beginning, right? Getting that information and getting the customer to willingly provide us the ability to get the roadmap from them on how to sell them a car is huge. So let's talk about this. Let's dive on in. Why exactly are we hated more than your dentist, than the lawyers, than just the people that have also bad reputations? Why are we down at the bottom? Well, the reason is actually really simple. It's the tactics that we've learned and the fact that they're incredibly outdated. The whole idea of you getting a customer on in the door and then caving their head on in is a tactic that they're thought that we have to just let go, because that's not how the world works anymore, right? You got Google reviews, you got your surveys, you got all this other stuff that is out there ranking us on the daily. And there's not one thing out there that's like, oh yeah, I'm going to give them, 100% because they went ahead and just, man, they crushed me on the deal. Customers don't do that. You don't do that. Actually, you get super ticked if if you find out that the sales consultant just did something that is harming you in some way. You don't want to do that. And none of us go out of our way, at least the vast majority of us, to harm the customer. So let's figure out how to do good. But like I said, you walk into a store, are you just a walking paycheck to them? Or do they actually show you genuine interests? Because if they're showing you genuine interests, this is where things start to get kind of cool, because that connection builds up. So if you walk into, let's say, wherever that supports your hobby, if all of a sudden that person starts talking to you about that hobby, which they obviously know a lot about if they're selling those particular items that help out that hobby, you're going to want to talk to them more because that interest is there. And it's our job to find that common ground with the customer. And you hear people every so often say, find common ground, it makes life easier. Well, what the hell does that mean? What it means is find the areas where you and the customer can kind of connect a little bit, and then get that customer to start talking about the things that excite them to the point of nauseam, even if you do not care about those things. Because those things in that conversation, embedded inside of it, are all of the reasons why that customer has walked the path to lead them to the seat that they are sitting in where you are. So trust. What is it? Well, I can tell you this. It's a psychological necessity in our business, right? So research has shown that people make buying decisions based on emotion first, and then they move over into logic. And what I've always taught is try to keep the customer's brain in an emotional state. Look at yourself. If you are somebody that's like, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy this incredibly awesome thing, but I don't know. It's just not there yet. I hear people say this all the time. Like, I'm not going to buy that television because technology is improving. When are you going to bite the bullet, right? When emotion trumps logic. As soon as that happens, where you have emotion that goes further than logic, all of a sudden people go ahead and say, oh yeah, I'm absolutely going to do it. Why? It's a dumb idea. Well, I feel like it's really good. And we've heard this all the time, is that people just like, I feel like it's a really good idea, right? Well, once logic is introduced into the scenario, now a whole bunch of other problems come up. This is one of the reasons that a lot of the time with managers during your initial training, they tell you, shut up. Let the customer speak, right? Now, I've talked about the 80-20 rule that Dale Carnegie came up with a long time ago, where, 80% listen, 20% talk. But the other side of that is that 90%, 10% rule. 90% of the conversation has to be about that individual that's sitting in front of me, right? And about their life, not just about the car. The customer's been shopping for cars. They've been looking for cars. They're kind of sick of talking about cars. They want something a little bit different, and you can be that breath of fresh air. Give a crack at it, and get the customer speaking again about themselves. So, but here's a stat that should probably shake you pretty good, right? 31% of customers are more likely to buy from a salesperson who actually listens. Okay, well, hold on here. So 60% of the people that walk through the front door despise us. But as soon as we connect with them, our closing ratios spike by nearly 31%. Well, hold on the phone. That means that if I don't take the path of, okay, you want to see this, let's go on our pumpkin patch, select whatever vehicle you want that you can't afford, and then you drive it. I ask you dumb questions like, well, if everything works out, will you take it home today? Well, that's akin to saying, like, how much of my paycheck do you want? And then they get back to the dealership, you blow away your whole paycheck, take your little mini commission, and then you're like, yay, I got a counter on the board. That's the wrong way to go about this, right? Your customer that you just sold, you paid for them to buy the car. Let me say that again. About 3 weeks into me selling cars, I realized really quickly that if I go ahead and have a discount come down on a vehicle, that directly affects my paycheck. I don't want to discount cars. I want that customer to go buy the car at the maximum price possible, but I want the customer to be happy with their purchase. We're not talking about manipulating somebody here. We're talking about sitting down with them, learning who they are, and then taking that information and transferring it on over to the presentation to paint a picture to get the customer to go, yes, this is going to work. At the same time, get this. They see that you're listening. The closing ratio goes up by 31%, and you start killing it. The customer just simply says yes. You show them the payment that you already know is in the wheelhouse because you've assessed the negative equity ahead of time. You didn't negotiate with them. You just know what their negative equity is because you asked the right questions in order to get that information. And as you've done this, you've had one heck of an enjoyable time working with this person, They love you because you let them talk to the point of exhaustion. And now this person has connected with you. You see, kindness is that key. Kindness and slowing down is that key to unlocking trust. And if you can do it, you will be going ahead and crushing the showroom floor. I mean, this is not one of those things where, hey, the best sales pitch is going to go ahead and get you. Sales pitches as of late is just an intro to going ahead and getting a conversation going. That's all sales pitch is, hey, let me go ahead and show you what I have and all the benefits that it can provide you. And then let's have a candid conversation to see if you actually want this thing, right? And that's just how sales works. But in our business, it can work a little bit differently because that person is coming to us. We're not going to them. It's not a cold sale. They're coming in, they're sitting down, and we got to get them to talk. So it's not about, again, that best pitch. It's not about being the slickest one with the slickest lines on the showroom floor, right? It's the one who listens ends up seeing their profit margins bumped up. The one who listens doesn't burn through all of those customers and go, oh man, all the customers are absolutely terrible. No. Please, quote me on this. The customer never changes because they are always different. And because they are always different, we can run with a clean slate on every single customer and have the same chance of closing every person that comes in. You just got to start better. That's it. That's not that hard. Let's flip the script on this, right? What if instead of focusing on closing the deal, you focused on actually making a solid connection with the customer, right? Instead of being pushy, you started asking questions. Instead of assuming, you simply started listening. So let me fill you in on a customer that I had. So I had a customer that I'll never forget this one. She came on in. She had 2 kids, rough divorce that she just got out of. And as she's sitting down in front of me, I use her as an example quite a bit. So if you've heard some of this story, here's the whole thing. So she goes ahead, she comes out and sits down in front of me. And she starts telling me what she wants. Cool. You want that car? Let's talk about the car. If that's what you want to talk about, we'll talk about the car for a little bit. Until I find that little strand inside of there, which is the emotional connection. And I look at her vehicle and I said, wow, man, you have had that trade for quite a long time. It looks like it's been through, hell and back. So what are you doing with this thing? And she goes, listen, I have 2 kids. We run around all over the place. Right. The little girl over here, she's in gymnastics, ballet, all sorts of crazy stuff. And, I mean, 3 different sports. I'm driving around all over for her. And also my son is just of age where he's starting to get into sports too. So we're going around all over, and I was just divorced, and all of a sudden, I have to do all of this on my own. You see, this individual wasn't shopping for a car per se. They were shopping for somebody that they could actually, that would actually listen to them. And that's not easy, because when people come in, we tend to get our mental state in an area of, well, if the customer's walking in the door and I've spun in 4 people, therefore nobody's buying. The customer has changed. No, the customer's not one singular individual. It's every time a new customer comes in, you have the ability to reset. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back a few podcasts and listen to The Great Reset. It's all about getting that brain in the right spot, because if you don't have your head right, this whole thing falls apart. The whole point was to make the individual, and this woman sitting in front of me, confident in the fact that she was on the right path to doing the thing that she felt was correct for herself and her family. My job was to bring down her anxieties and increase her ability or her desire to give herself the permission to simply say yes to buying a car. You see, when she walked in, it was all about her needs at first. It was all about her concerns, and her concerns went pretty deep because of this recent divorce. She started telling me about her house. She told me about a dog that she just lost. She had it rough for a little bit here. But at the end, it came on down to the fact that I took really good notes about every little thing that she gave me, right? Because every little thing had a little bit of fodder in there that I could go ahead and say, okay, so this happened here, and how could I relate that to the car? How could I make her life a little bit easier with this stuff? So with this individual, she not only bought the vehicle after we had 2 hours of conversation, but she not only bought the vehicle, she bought the vehicle over MSRP. She was incredibly happy when she left. It wasn't the most fully loaded vehicle because I knew that I couldn't make the profit on that. I wasn't walking home with a decent paycheck. Also, she sent friends on in. Even though you charge somebody, let's say over MSRP for a vehicle, it doesn't mean that they hate you, right? Actually, a lot of times when you charge them over MSRP, if you know how to do your job, they have no idea that you just went ahead and made yourself a reasonable paycheck. And at the same time, if you ask people that may have gone to, let's say, like another dealership, hey, how much were you paying over there? They'll tell you, hey, I was paying less over here. Well, why'd you buy the car from me? Because when it comes to price, that's not really the issue. I wanted to find the right car. I needed to find the right person. And we've all heard it. Right car, right person, right dealership. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's the right person. Every single time. The car really doesn't matter. Yeah, if they need an SUV or a minivan, of course, we got to give an SUV or a minivan. With the sedan, four-door sedan just isn't going to work, right? They need more seats. So we do have some very, very strong guidelines that we have to abide by. But this woman, when she came in and told me, hey, here's my life. Here's everything that's going wrong with it. And you know what? Because you're listening, here's more that's going wrong with it. And I just let her talk and talk and talk and talk. And as she talked, she gave me all the info. So as far as this, the long game plays out really well. And it's actually faster. This is very much like a tortoise or a hare kind of thing. Because if I have customers coming in and they're sitting down and I'm spinning them, right? 10 minutes with one, half an hour with another, hour and a half with another, they didn't buy. Now I'm in a crappy mood. You're just going to be spinning customers. Reset yourself. Sit down, find a happy spot, find a happy memory, whatever it might be. And I know this might sound cheesy, but you got to reset the brain. If you reset the brain, you get yourself in a positive mindset. That is contagious and your customers pick up on it. And then they will want to tell you about their lives, right? Because sales success is about getting that customer back on in. Now, this woman had two friends coming in right after, and they both bought. And they both bought because of the relationship that I built with her, which was her ability to simply go ahead, sit down, carry on a conversation, and feel valued. If somebody feels valued, that means way more to them than the vehicle itself while going through the process. I mean, seriously, remember that stat in the beginning. 60% of people hate buying automobiles. 60% of people do not like car sales consultants. So let's flip the script. Let's get them to love us because it's not that hard. So how can you apply a method like this in your sales process? Here are some real world examples. The first one here I'm going to give you here is a simple one. It's just start by practicing active listening. It's not easy. And I can tell you right now, I'm not always the greatest at it. And this comes down to paying very close attention to what people are saying. Now, if it's a customer and there's a paycheck on the line, I become just bulletproof on this thing. But if it's like just everyday life, being distracted is a very easy thing, especially if you're somebody that has, let's say, a little bit of undiagnosed ADD going on and you're just all over the place like I am. So with this, start with listening, right? When that customer tells you what they're looking for, don't jump straight into a sales pitch. A lot of the times, you don't need to actually pitch the customer. The customer had their pitch done when they were justifying if that vehicle would work while they were looking online, right? Our job is to make them feel like they're more than just a paycheck. Our job is to make them feel valued. Our job is to be kind. Our job is to actually show a little bit of caring and empathy to an individual who is kind of scared to go ahead and buy right now. And if they're scared, well, this means that the more kindness and caring that we offer, the more ability that we give them to listen, the higher the likeliness is that they're actually going to buy that day, simply because, well, you're the only person that treated them in such a great way. But make it personal, right? Remember all the details that the customer gave you. This is why I'm a big stickler on, hey, write things down. If you got a tablet, get yourself a pen and start jotting down all those details about the customer. Reference those past conversations with them as well. So as you've been through your needs assessment, the customer's been saying, hey, here's what I want. Here's my life. Here's the things that I do. Well, if they're mentioning their life and you can find things that translate over to the car and you can paint a picture to get the customer to visualize that, oh my gosh, this is what everything that I need. They may not have seen that when they were researching online, but when they sat down with you, you gave them the opportunity to understand that, hey, if you give me the info, I'm going to give you the car. I'm going to give you the car that meets exactly your needs, and I'm going to make sure that you can afford it. The next one here, I'm also not great at this one, especially when I'm talking on a microphone. Slow down. A little sidebar. I'm trying. But with this, rushing the sale makes people feel pressured. And as you rush that sale, it not only makes you feel, or the customer feel pressured, but it makes you feel pressured to close it down faster. And comes from the fact that we've all been trained that, well, we want to secure that deal right now to make sure that we get that paycheck. Cool, right? But ease off the throttle a minute. Now, my manager, when I first started, went ahead, and I remember a used car manager, super interesting dude, missed the guy. He would go ahead and tell me, hey, Andy, the first person that talks loses. And he was right. Almost everybody that I've talked to has mentioned first person that talks loses, but they never gave me a reason why. And this goes back into the psychological side of this, is that the customer is justifying in their head the yeses. You open your mouth, they'll go ahead and say no. So slow down. Slow down. People get defensive when they need to respond. If they don't need to respond directly to you, the defense mechanisms drop. So give them the time, right? Rushing that is not going to help. Give them the space that they need to simply decide, right? If they trust you, they're going to move forward. If they trust you, they will have questions. And a lot of the times it's not, well, we're $50 away a month. You already got that out of the way. You got that out of the way when you ask them the questions about what they have, what they owe on that vehicle. You got your used car manager on that. You assess the negative equity ahead of time. And then you found a vehicle that fits within their budget. Why we assess the trade at the end, I will never know. But slow down and don't rush things. All right, next one. Next one is also a very easy one, unlike listening, where if we just simply start doing it, it's not hard to continue. Be honest. You never need to lie to the customer. We are in the business of happiness. We are in the business of people. We are in the business of selling. We're not in the car business. I know this sounds bizarre to some people here, but the car business, if you're in backspin and wrenches, you're in the car business. If you're selling parts, you're in the car business. If you're selling cars, you're in the people business. And it just happens to be that, it's part of the car business. But our job has very little to do with the actual automobile. You learn about the car and you learn about the person. Once you learn about the person, then you can show them a car. So when it comes down to honesty, if a product or service isn't the right fit, tell them. Look them straight in the eye and go, listen, you have 14 children. This minivan isn't going to work. You need a Sprinter van with 1 billion seats inside of it. Don't be at all afraid to go ahead and when you've earned the customer's trust and respect to be candidly honest in some areas. They're going to appreciate that. The internet doesn't do that. You can use, ChatGPT or Grok or whatever it is out there to get some of the information. But at the end of the day, it rolls around. They still want to talk to a human. So with this, be honest. Those little white lies will always creep up and they will always bite you in the ass and they always hurt an awful lot. So try to be easy with that, right? Your future business relies on it. Then follow up, but show caring, right? Check in after that sale, right? It's not to upsell. Actually, if you go ahead and you try to upsell the customer in this point, everything tends to fall apart. And so you don't want it to be in a position where the customer goes ahead and picks up the phone and you're like, well, hey, how's your vehicle? Oh, it's great. Have you shown anybody yet? Well, I showed a few of my friends. Do they want to buy one? This is how you get your phone blocked on the customer's phone. So please stop doing it. You're hurting yourself. This business, if you ever see somebody that has not gotten out of their desk, right? I could name probably 50 people out there that have been in this business so long that they just don't get up anymore. The reason for this is that they continually talk to their customers and foster, get this, relationships. Hey, I'm just calling to see how you are. Hey, I saw that your kid was in the paper. Hey, you know what? I saw this about you, or I thought you'd like this because I have notes right here saying that you love tech. And hey, take a look at all the tech that is on the horizon here. Holy cow! You see, it's not always about selling. It's about fostering those relationships. And as you foster those relationships, the genuine interest in you starts to pop up too. And as the customer starts to receive that interest in them, all of a sudden, that interest in you turns into another sale in the future because that customer is going to say, I don't want to look for another car sales consultant. I just simply want to buy a car, and this person allows me to do it. And when that relationship is built up, they come in, they look at you and go, hey, how you been? Good, I just got the phone with you. So what's up? Well, I want this car. Cool, the relationship's already there. You have all of your notes from years of communicating with them, and as soon as they say, I want that. Awesome. Let's assess some numbers here and just make sure it's going to work for you. And we'll go from there. You assess the trade, you assess the negative equity, you figure out what vehicle you need, you get the pricing done ahead of time. Again, no negotiation yet. And you show them a vehicle that you know that they can afford. So when you show them a payment, they're not coming unglued. So in closing, trust can't be built overnight, right? Trust is that item that's going to create those long-term successes in your career. And if you got into this business and you're like, hey, I just got into this business because I need a paycheck, that's the car business. I'm sorry, but if you leave, you're coming back, right? You might as well just start building those awesome relationships now, because the customer's not going to remember that sales pitch that you gave them. If you see them again, ask them, do you remember when I told you on that car? They're going to tell you no, because what does matter is how you made them feel. You see, by going ahead and learning who they are, that gives them the ability to speak out themselves. If they speak about themselves, all of a sudden, trust goes up and the ability to give themselves permission also increases. So as you go about your sales day today, ask yourself, am I selling or am I serving? Because the best salespeople out there serve first, and the greatest salespeople out there never actually have to sell. They've got the information and they did the right thing. So that's it for today. If you found this valuable, please go ahead, follow, subscribe, share with somebody who may need it, that one person that might be struggling on the showroom floor. But just note, hey, every Thursday, I'm going to drop these things, and with a little luck, if you pick something up, hopefully you sell another car, you make more money, or you at least realize that when you're dealing with people, your commission is directly connected to the amount of kindness that you're willing to deliver to the customer. So until next time, sell with kindness, build trust, and keep making a difference in somebody's life. You matter. Invest the time in yourself to be awesome. I will talk to you all next week. Have a great one.